gosh. It only took us 6 times to push the start button before it actually started. We're doing great. Welcome back to another episode of Uncomfortable Conversations with the K&K Twins. I'm Kim.
I'm Kathleen.
We're
Thanks
a
for
hot
joining
mess.
us. We are a hot mess. Oh my gosh. So
So
last
ridiculous.
episode 5, we...
No, 6.
Yes, episode 6, we were talking about blinders. So we did the first 4 blinders.
Yes.
You want to recap those
Yes,
for us?
absolutely. So the
Okay.
first 4 blinders, things we don't see clearly. Number 1 was filtering information and how we filter information. Number 2 was defending the offender. That's a big one, I know, in my history. Number 3 was redefining pain and how it shows up and manifests itself in other ways in our bodies. Number 4 is proclaiming perfect perception. And boy, do we do that. Now,
we do that. We deny reality.
Yeah, all the time. Denial is like our middle name. But we're getting better.
We are.
But we're getting better.
We're
working
healing.
through
We're healing.
it. So today we're going to talk about, in this episode, we're going to talk about the last 3 of the blinders, which are keeping busy, exchanging emotions, and a big one for all of us, people pleasing.
People pleasing.
I feel like women are much more people pleasers
Prone
than
to that?
Yeah, I
Probably.
think more than men are. I'm sure, obviously there are
know.
men,
Yeah.
but I feel like we're worse about it. So that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. And the first one of these is, oh, you know what? You have something very important to say.
Oh, yes. Hey, if you're enjoying our podcast, would you just like and subscribe us below? So hit the subscribe button, like us. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
And we want to be there for you. So whenever we have a new episode that comes up, we want you to be notified right away.
Right.
Because we're in it together.
And send us your comments, and we'll
Yeah.
respond to those.
Yeah, and if you have questions,
Right.
post the questions so that we can do our best to respond
Yeah.
to them. We're just, we're regular people. We're not therapists. We're not life coaches.
We're
just
yes,
regular people
people.
working through our own stuff.
who are codependent
Yeah.
and are figuring out how to change.
Yeah.
We're figuring out how to heal ourselves, how to undo those codependent habits. So there is hope.
Yes,
If
that's what I was
you're
just about to
right,
say. Yeah.
there's hope for us, for all of us.
And that's why we do this, because we have grown so much. We've had so much change, and we went, gosh, how many people can we bring along with us?
Right?
Who, when you find something that works for you, you want to share it with everybody, and so that's why we're here. Okay, so back to the last 3 blinders. Let's talk about keeping busy.
Yes, keeping busy. Wow, this is one where we use all sorts of activities to keep ourselves from thinking and feeling, from reflecting, from looking at our stuff. It's too painful. We don't want to look at it. So
Yeah.
we stay very busy, and that can be through workaholism, charity work,
Yeah.
church work, being really active in the
Yeah.
church. It can be sports events. If you're a gym rat and you're going to the gym all the time, it can be binge watching.
Oh yeah, it could be watching television. It could be binge watching great shows on Netflix. It could be scrolling through social media.
Exactly.
Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat.
All
and
those things.
Twitface and I don't know.
And you know what? Games, computer games.
Yeah.
Being on
yeah,
your
yeah.
computer, on your iPad, doing all those games, mindless stuff that we think we're just doing to relax.
Right.
But it's an avoidance technique
Exactly.
to
Exactly.
keep us from dealing with our stuff.
Well, sometimes, I'll speak for me. So the way I was in my previous codependent way of functioning, if I felt any kind of discomfort in my body, like that's how I've learned now I feel it in my body. And so when I would feel that discomfort, I would immediately do something to avoid feeling it. Now what I do is I try to work through it and understand what I'm feeling and understand why I'm feeling that way. In the past, I didn't do any of that. I would avoid it. So I would hang out with friends. I would sit and watch television. I would do mindless games. And I think there's a place for all of that.
Right?
I think some of
In
it
a
is
healthy
just
way.
Yeah, some of it is just decompressing. Like sometimes I just need to shut my brain down for the day. But if you're doing it as a way of avoidance and a way of
Every
not
day.
feeling your feelings and not dealing with and staying in that place of denial, then that is a codependent behavior, and that's not healthy.
Anything we do to stay busy and preoccupied to avoid reality and the truth of our lives. What's really going on with us?
And if you think that's not you, that's normal. That's a codependent thing too. That's a codependent thing too. So I guess it's not normal, but you are codependent if you go, oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
Really see how much time you're spending and see doing things that aren't bringing any value to you. And really analyze your feelings and what you're feeling when you're trying to avoid, because this is I think one of the main things that we do to avoid our feelings and to put these blinders up so that we can't see and feel what's really going on inside us.
So ask yourself this: do you on a regular basis check in with yourself and sit and reflect? Do you take time to reflect on your life, what your issues may be, your inner turmoil, what your feelings are? When something happens, you feel that clench in your stomach. Do you stop and analyze your feelings? You identify your feelings.
This is where I pull out my feelings wheel,
right?
Y'all.
Yeah, the feelings wheel. Do it.
I don't know what's going on. I feel something. I don't know what I'm feeling. I literally pull out my feelings wheel on my phone to go, okay, what am I feeling?
Right.
What is this? Is it fear? Is it worry? Is it anger? And put some words to that, because what we've learned really in processing this together is once you can name and identify what the feeling is, it takes the power away from it.
Right.
You no longer feel the overwhelm and the frustration and all the other words that you attach to it. You have resolution and there's peace and calm, and so you don't need to avoid when you can actually resolve.
And think about this: are there times where you've said things or done things, you've said things to people or responded to things in ways that later you just feel like you have you feel uncomfortable, some dis-ease, you just feel like you're just uneasy about it, but you can't quite define it. You feel so uncomfortable with what you said or done, and maybe you feel some guilt or some shame or whatever you feel, but you're not quite sure, but you don't want to deal with it. If you just give it enough time, it'll go away. So just over time, a couple, 2 or 3 days later, a week later, and you've kind of forgotten about it, but you haven't actually dealt with it, and it just compounds. You know, so
it's still there. It doesn't go anywhere.
If you're finding yourself thinking, oh, why did I say that, or oh, that didn't come out right, often, like frequently, we all do it, but I'm just saying on a frequent basis, because we're not responding to things in a healthy way, you start feeling that uncomfortableness, then you probably need to sit and do some reflection and analyzing. So we may have a sense that something's wrong, but we just can't identify it. We're not sure what it is. We have no idea,
and we don't take the time to. I mean, my defense mechanism was to not feel my feelings. So,
and we would, as codependents, we would reject. Yeah, we would reject the idea that we are suppressing our feelings.
Absolutely.
That we don't know what we feel. That we are staying busy. That we're workaholics. Nobody ever admits they're a workaholic. It's crazy.
Are you a workaholic?
I am.
Oh, okay.
I am.
She just admitted
But I'm working on it because I'm healing.
Yes.
I would have never said that.
Yeah, that's true. She would have said, no, there's a lot to get done.
Yeah, I got
a lot to do.
And only I can do it. So.
You might be a codependent.
You say that, yeah. So, yeah.
All right, you want to go to number 6, exchanging emotions.
So, yeah, this is an interesting one. So, because codependents haven't really experienced true love and intimacy or just genuine support and encouragement, we often substitute one emotion for another. And I think we talked about this in a past episode where, for instance, we may equate love with worry or correction because we're trying to fix.
Or managing, like
helping, managing.
Helping, that's it.
Yeah, we're trying to help.
We call it helping, but we're really like manipulating and managing and controlling other people's lives.
So we really substitute worry or correction for affection and love that the recipient actually needs. And I think of it with my children, my child, right? So as a child, micromanage my child, criticizing her, trying to control all aspects of her life was my desperate attempt in my sense of incompetency as a parent. I didn't have self-confidence as a parent to try and make my child be perfect, because if my child was perfect, then that would reflect well on me that I was a good parent. So that was how I would try to make my child be perfect so that I would look like the perfect parent, and that's where I would get validation, I would get approval, that kind of thing. So my ulterior motive was not pure. It was not in the best interest of my daughter, to my to my regret to this day, and that's amends that I need to make with her, and I will be. But I need to be validated. That was my need
Well,
to
I
be
was going to
validated.
say, we want so desperately to be loved and be accepted and to be admired, and for people to think the best of us, and that whole perfection. We have this whole perfectionism thing as codependents, and so that's what I hear you saying. I was striving for that perfect life, because that was a reflection on me, and I can say the same thing. You know, I have lots of children that would say, I, especially when they were younger, was very controlling, very hypercritical, and that's how I was raised. I was raised in a home where you had to be perfect.
Yes.
Anytime you were not in the house, especially like where other people could see you, you always had you give the best, most perfect impression. And so, you know, we do what we're taught. We do what we see. And so in my mind, like, that's what you did. It didn't matter what the kids needed or the best way to talk to them.
Right.
And in my hypercriticalism, is that a word, hypercriticalism?
We make up words all the time.
In my being hypercritical with them, my heart was in the right place. Like, I just want them to be their best, but perfect is not is their best, you know? And so I thought it was an act of love. I thought I was being loving.
Me too.
And being a good mom by always pointing out what they were doing wrong.
Yes. But was it really, you said we came from a good place, from our heart was in the right place, but was it really wasn't altruistic. It was trying to fulfill our own need, using our children to fulfill our own need, and that is not healthy.
No, I think in my mind, I thought it was
coming from
like,
I thought the same thing. I would help my daughter be, you know, the best thing that she could be, knowing somewhere in my subconscious that I was really probably doing it more for my benefit than hers.
I don't think
I identified that. Like, I don't think I could have articulated that and vocalized that, but I think somewhere deep down I knew my mom did that to me, and the damage and the pain it caused me, but I couldn't seem to stop because it's all I knew, right? It's it's what my mom did with me, and my dad too, to a certain extent. So I think sometimes we substitute those things when our kids really just need our love and affection
and acceptance.
And sometimes people use like condemnation or manipulation,
for sure,
or praise. Even we use
can also be manipulation,
or praise, which is another side of the manipulation coin. Rather than just simply loving them. Just loving them
and accepting them.
Yeah, because you know what? We really invalidate their feelings. We don't allow them to have their own feelings, to have their own failures, to have their own experiences, because we're so busy trying to fit them into the perfection mold that we need them to fit in, that we're then creating other codependents. We're creating codependent children like our parents created with us. We're just recreating that same dynamic from our home.
All they're doing is repeating the same patterns we did. We learned from our parents, our kids learned from us. And so I've got older kids who are of adult age who are very controlling and hypercritical, and because that's what they were raised with, me. And then my younger kids have a new mom. It's still me, but I've done so much healing that they can say, and I'm still healing, that they can say to me, Mom, you're being totally controlling right now, and you know, you just need to back up and let me feel my feelings, or let me be me. Where my older kids wouldn't have had the freedom to even say that to me, because I would have like nipped that in the bud and told them they were being disrespectful and they couldn't talk to me that way, which is heartbreaking to me that I didn't allow my children
to feel their feelings.
Exactly. So here I am wanting to heal those relationships that I've broken, and I want them to be whole, and not feel the need to function the way I did all those years. And then I have my younger kids that are teaching me as I'm teaching them how to live in a healthier way. And so that's just another way of saying that there's hope. And we all break
there's
our
healing.
kids.
we all break our kids.
But
you know what I do? I do see, Kim, that you are allowing your younger ones to express feelings. They're able to express themselves more without punishment or criticism.
And sometimes it's hard for me.
Yeah, me
like,
too.
I have to,
me
like,
too,
I
sure.
get real quiet, which is not my natural state. And I get very reflective. And I think they probably think I'm angry. And if I am, I'm angry at myself because I'm like, dang it, I did it again. I'm really working on it. And,
right? We're trying so hard.
But, so, and, they do have that freedom, but I'm not like, thanks so much for putting me in my place and making me feel
for
like
pointing out to me my
no, it hurts, but this is part of what we learn in healing from our codependency is doing things the right way, a healthy way. In the long run, benefits everybody, and everybody is better off, and everybody wins and has healing. So I can handle. Look, I handled 40 funky years of discomfort living in codependency.
Right.
So I can handle a few minutes of discomfort while I work through, or for a few weeks or a few months of discomfort while I work through this healing of my own. Because it's really, so far, we've been doing this a couple years, but we've come
happen
so
overnight,
far
folks.
in a couple of years.
We really have.
So far.
But you know what I think is so beautiful is that when we create a safe space and allow and invite our children to be honest with how they're feeling, even if it's critical of us and they're pointing out a weakness of us, the healing and the change in your relationship is really beautiful. It's really
it creates a bond, and I feel like I'm closer to my younger children than I was to my older children when they were this age, because I didn't allow them to have this intimacy with me, to be able to let them see me and let me, like, I can very freely say now, dang, I messed that up. I know I told you I was going to respect your boundaries, and I totally blew it again. And I'm really, really sorry. And sometimes the response is, okay, I know you're sorry, but you're just going to have to back up and let me get over it.
Right. Because we talked about this this weekend. I sent this to Kim. I said, I've just realized that when you hurt somebody, you offend somebody.
Yes.
You can say you're sorry, and you may be very sorry, but saying you're sorry doesn't fix the wound. It's like if I hit you, and if I hit Kim and I broke her arm, I could say I'm sorry, but her arm is still broken. It doesn't instantly heal her arm. So just saying you're sorry doesn't necessarily fix it.
Right.
Doesn't heal the wound necessarily right then and there. There's still work to be done. So if I hit her and I hurt her, I'm going to have to over time demonstrate that I am truly sorry and repentant by no longer hitting her and no longer hurting her over a period of time where she learns now to trust me that when I say I'm not going to hit you anymore, I'm not, because my history now is reflecting this new behavior.
Right.
If I said I'm sorry, I won't hit you again, and then I do it again, clearly that trust is not there, and it's not going to be there because I'm demonstrating the opposite of what I'm saying. So,
and what's going to happen in the beginning is the next time you move, I'm gonna get triggered,
flinch.
I'm gonna get triggered from that experience, which is what we do emotionally. We get triggered by people's behavior that is similar to something else that hurt us in the past.
Right.
So I'm gonna get triggered until I work through that and
learn to trust
and see that repetitious behavior that's different. But that's actually an
But you
analogy.
have to be committed to creating that safe space, and that was making me. I was sharing with Kim, my daughter. I come from a family of yellers. My dad was a Marine. He was a yeller. He would just scream at you. You'd be terrified as a child. And my mom was also a yeller. So we came from two yellers. So we yelled a lot in our house. They didn't do the hitting thing. They didn't, beat us or hit us or whatever. I mean, we got the belt. We did get spanked, but we didn't get beatings. But with that yelling was this constant yelling. And I remember one time I was doing this Bible study about generational sin, and it challenged us to invite our children or our spouses, significant others, to be honest with us and tell us, what is one thing that I do that really hurts you or that you feel damages our relationship, but really be sincere in telling them they can be totally honest. And at first, when I shared with my daughter, I said, tell me, what it is that, the one thing that I could change that would help improve our relationship. And she did not believe me for 1 minute that it was really safe that I really wanted to hear this, that she could really be honest with me. So it took me a while to keep trying to convince her that I'm really going to create the safe place. And I was committed to it. So what she said to me was, she said, Mom, when you yell at me, and I said, well, tell me, how does that make you feel? Like, tell me about that. She said, well, when you yell at me, your whole demeanor changes, your face changes. She goes, and when you look at me, it's like you hate me. Like you look at me like hatred, like you don't love me anymore. It feels like you don't love me when you yell at me like that, and your face is so contorted with anger. And I realized the damage that I was doing in our relationship by yelling like that. And so I was trying to figure out what to do to fix this. But I didn't react. I was really good. I was so hurt and so crushed, but I knew it was true. I knew it was true. And it clicked with me. This is what I knew because this is what I grew up with. But I remember how damaging it was for me. I just didn't know how to do something different.
Yeah.
So when she shared this with me, it broke my heart. I actually went up in my room and just cried because I thought, I'm doing to her what my parents did to me that I hated. How do I fix this? So we came up with a little plan, and I said to her, okay, here's what we're gonna do. When you see me start getting tense and like I'm gonna start yelling, we're gonna have a safe word. And you're gonna say this word or this phrase, and when you say that, promise you, I'm committing to you that I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna give myself a timeout. I'm gonna go in my room, I'm gonna process and come back and think of a better way to say it without yelling. She did not believe me for 1 minute because my past history had not proved itself to be trustworthy in that regard. So I was really prayerful about this and said, Lord, don't let me screw this up. I've got to do it the very first time. I've got to do it every time. When she says that safe word, I have got to make myself stop. That was the hardest part. So sure enough, she tried it. And I was so sure I was right, and I needed to tell her all the things. I'm sorry. But you know what? I had already committed to this, so I stopped. I didn't say anything. I still looked angry, I'm sure. I stomped my way up to my room. I closed my door, and I thought, okay, I told her it was safe for her to be honest with me, to reveal her heart to me, to share her soul, her fears with me. She's telling me, Mom, you hurt me when you do this. This damages our relationship. This damages my trust in you. I don't trust you to protect my heart, protect my feelings, which is crushing for a parent, or it should be. And so I did, and I stopped, and it took me a while to get myself under control, and then to work through and say, okay, how do I go down and say what I need to say? Because she needs this correction in a way that still makes her feel loved, and that I haven't disconnected emotionally from her. So then I kind of went down, and we started, we talked through that. So that was kind of our way to deal with that. And I was so committed that I did that. I did it because if I wouldn't have, it never would have worked, and it would just been another broken promise, right? So the interesting thing was, it was about a couple years later, maybe 18 months or 2 years later, she said to me one day in the car, she said, Mom, you know what? I just realized this. You don't yell anymore.
Aw.
You don't really yell anymore. So that was just a little technique that we used to get past something that was critical in our relationship.
Good.
Now, I was still critical of her. I still did the
You
controlling,
weren't
the whole thing.
perfect, but
I'm just saying that's one area that I was able to work with and heal from. So anyway, make sure you are committed to this process if you're going to do this with your kids, because you'll just do more damage if you promise them that it's safe and it's not. They'll just go back into a shell even farther. So all that to say, exchanging emotions. And sometimes when you're really angry, we hide that behind this facade of stoicism.
I was just about
that
to say,
we're just we're not going to express our anger, so it looks like it's all peaceful and calm, but inside, seething rage and anger.
And actually, mine wasn't even like stoicism. I would smile. I can smile through the worst of it, and my children know when they see me smiling a certain way, they're scared. Like, that's not good, right? But that was, that was part of me trying to always look perfect. Like, you could never know how horrible my life was or how challenging what I was going through was. I would just put a smile on my face, which again is also part of the denial, but it was exchanging emotions. I was, instead of acknowledging what I was really feeling, I would just put a smile on my face and keep on trucking.
Right? Not good, you guys. No. Not good. And even, like, I know a lot of times someone will say, I'm tired. If you ask someone, if you have someone in your life where you say, hey, how are you doing today? I'm tired.
Every day, every time you ask.
Typically what that really means is I'm depressed. That's a sign of depression. If you ask someone how they're doing, I have someone in my life that is never good. I've never in all their entire life ever heard them say, I'm fine. Yes, I'm in great mood today. I'm feeling really good. Never, not one time. But she suffers from depression and anxiety, and that's just a constant for her. But she can't own that. She can't articulate that.
Yeah.
She can't. So it's always, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. All the time.
Yep.
So that's just one of the ways. So
yeah,
anyway.
then that's good to know,
Right.
because we can have we can lack empathy.
Yes.
And think that they're making excuses, and really they're
really just struggling with life. So and kind of under that, kind of under that umbrella of exchanging emotions.
It's one of the things we do when we're exchanging emotions is we don't identify our feelings accurately. So we use words like frustrated when really we're
lot.
Angry.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably the one I
we're
would
hurt.
I think that's I think especially if you're playing for sympathy, which is probably not the nicest way to say it, but if you're trying to gain sympathy, you're hurt all the time, don't you think?
Yeah.
But it's really you may not be hurt. You may be
disappointed,
wanting to feel needed and wanting attention. It may be disappointment. It may be, that's the whole point, is we assign these words, and especially if we're overusing them.
Like frustrated.
Yeah.
People say frustrated a lot because it sounds
Palatable.
okay. People
It's
are like,
palatable.
yeah, frustrated. Everyone gets frustrated. But to say you're angry may mean that you're out of control.
Yeah.
You don't want to be out of control.
And I think especially for women, I think,
Right.
men can sometimes be like, why are you so emotional?
Right.
Our anger might be called being emotional. Well, you don't say that to men, but so we'll change our words to make it more palatable,
Right.
To everyone around us. But again, it's just another form of denial, I think, and it's another blinder where we're not really acknowledging what we're really feeling,
Exactly.
and therefore we can't deal with it.
Right. So we just assign a different word to it that seems more socially acceptable.
Yeah.
So because really, it's really hard for codependents to express anger initially because anger is such a threatening emotion.
Yeah.
And it's really can be quite scary because we've been used to stuffing our emotions all our life. So suddenly we have to start identifying these. That can be terrifying. It really can be scary. So, yeah.
So a great rule of thumb is to really speak the truth in love. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if you're having an uncomfortable conversation.
Yes.
And really the best way to remove the blinder is to exchange the emotions and learn to say what you really mean. And if you need to analyze what you're feeling first, then take the time to do that. Use your feelings wheel.
Use your feelings wheel. Because I think one of the big things for codependence is that fear of abandonment, a fear of people not loving us, fear of people leaving us, if we express our own emotions.
Yeah.
So we stuff
or too much emotion.
Or too much emotion. You know
what I mean?
Yeah. Women being
we're fine being completely uncomfortable, but we're not going to make anybody else uncomfortable for fear that they will be scared off. So we will suppress our own feelings. We will deny our own feelings. We will hurt ourselves, which in turn hurts everybody, by the way.
Right.
In an effort to hang on desperately to whatever we think we have, which is usually not healthy in the first place because we're not healthy.
Right. Exactly. So use your feelings wheel. Learn to say what you mean, and that is difficult, and it does take time. We've been doing this for a while now. So like when I'm feeling triggered now, I'm able to say, you know what, I'm feeling triggered right now. And I have learned that I'm very fear-based. So before, when I would joke, I would just joke and laugh everything off and make a joke of everything because I didn't want to deal with the real stuff. It was very hard for me to ever express anger. People used to say, oh, you're just so happy all the time. I never see you angry.
Oh, but when she got angry?
When I finally got in touch with my feelings, when I got in touch with my anger, and you will, as a codependent, you're going to go through stages as you start working through your emotions. And so we both kind of went through our angry phase, and I'm like, I'm angry about everything.
She was angry at everything.
I was like, everything makes me, I'm thinking about all this stuff.
But it was such a short period of time.
But it was intense.
Yeah, well, anger is intense.
Because I hadn't expressed that like all my life practically. But then you may find that you're inordinately upset over small things because you want to avoid dealing with the real thing, the big things. So you just blow up over stupid stuff, or things build up because you avoid conflict. You don't ever want to say what you're really feeling.
Or you blow up at the wrong person.
Right? Or you wait until everything builds and then you blow up over something that they're like, if you'd have just said so, I didn't know that was going to, you know what I mean? Because we're not being honest with them or with ourselves.
And that, there have been times, well, maybe once, where I said to you, I really feel like you're more angry than is reasonable over this. What are you really upset about?
What's really going on?
Because that seems like really extreme anger for this little thing. But that's part of the gift of our friendship, is that we can say that to each other, because she probably didn't even know that it was like not proportionate. Just like because we don't see ourselves clearly.
Right.
We don't.
So when we start feeling those emotions, like I said, I realize I'm so fear-based. My fear is loss of love and validation, and because my parents, my dad was one that would punish you. He was not really emotionally available anyway, but he would withdraw emotionally. And my husband did the same thing. My husband was one that would give you the silent treatment. He would go days and weeks and not speak to you, as he was a punisher. So he would punish you emotionally if we had a fight or we disagreed or whatever. It was just, that is one of my big fears. And so that was a manipulation. That was a way to control me, was to withdraw from me emotionally. And he did that with my daughter as well.
You're so desperate. You're so desperate for that love. You'll do anything. You'll apologize when you're not wrong.
Right?
To anything to keep the peace. Yep, that's a big one. Okay, so let's go. That kind of leads us to people pleasing.
Yes, very much so. That's a big one.
That's a big one for codependence, because we have such a great need for others to accept us and love us
and validate us,
which is sad, but it's true. And again, I think this is another one of those things that women struggle with more than men, because we are, I don't know if part of it is societal, that we
possibly
take care of everybody else, and so we want to please everybody, and we want to be seen as happy and the people who make everything, especially as moms, as a mom, our job is to make sure everything is perfect in the household.
Okay.
And that everybody else is okay. But we do that to the detriment of ourselves, and really to the detriment of other people. We say yes to things that are not what's best for us. We run ourselves ragged
to make everybody else happy.
Yep. And really, that's a bad example. That, again, because it's not a healthy way of functioning, it hurts everybody. So it taught my kids to acquiesce when it wasn't right. And it taught my kids not to stand up for themselves, because they saw me not standing up for myself. And it taught my kids to not listen to their own minds and hearts and bodies, and analyze what's best for me, to make decisions based on what you want from other people versus what's best for me. Because I think as women, we're taught that that's selfish.
I think so too. That's a societal thing, I think, to a certain extent.
But we really do need to do what's best for us. We need to listen to, if we need, I think this is another big one for women. It's not okay for us to rest. We have to keep going and going and going.
Like to be super mom, super woman.
It's super everything, and that's crazy. But also it robs people who are supposed to be doing that this is their blessing, and this is where they can shine. And we're just taking everything because we're saying yes to everything.
Exactly.
And not allowing people to use their gifts and talents, and we're over here half-heartedly doing stuff in an effort to make everybody like us.
I remember one time a good friend of mine said to me, because I was very active in my church, and I was one of those people that if you asked me, I felt like, well, if they're asking me, the Lord must have directed me, the Lord must want me to do this. I said yes to everything until I was so burned out and so exhausted. And I remember a friend said to me, Kathleen, this is going to be the year of no for you. I'm going to challenge you. I want you, no matter what someone asks you at first, I want you to say no. Your first response is going to be no. And then you can pray about it and think about it and see, how do I really feel about this? Would this bring me joy? Is this something I really want to do? Do I have the time to do this? Am I emotionally available to do this? Is this best for me?
That's really
right?
good.
And so I had a year of no. And that was life-changing for me, learning how to say no. So it was so hard. I remember being so uncomfortable that I almost felt sick to my stomach. when somebody came and asked me, because they knew I was one of those people, you come to, if you need something, Kathleen will do it. And they came, I don't even remember what it was now, and they asked me, can you do such and such? And it was so hard. Like, I felt sick and I felt so intensely guilty. Like, I just felt horrible.
Which is a codependent thing
yes,
too.
Feeling guilty to say no
guilt.
for setting boundaries. But I had burned myself out so much that I just didn't have anything left to give. And so one of the things I realized is that maybe God was calling somebody else to do that. That's how he was going to work in their life. He had a plan for them. And if I stepped in and did this when he wasn't calling me to do it, I might be robbing them, like you said, of their blessing, or just sticking myself in, inserting myself where it wasn't in my best interest or anyone's best interest. So it wasn't going to work out as well as it could have if I had just said, stepped out of the way. So saying no was so hard in the beginning, but I was so glad I did. It was really an eye-opening year.
I need to do that. I know I've said I was going to do it. I forgot.
It's interesting.
I think there's a lot of power in that. So as codependents, we use these blinders to keep ourselves from seeing the objective truth. And the last three we talked about today was keeping busy, exchanging emotions, and people pleasing.
Right.
And we do that to avoid facing reality, to avoid feeling pain. But really what it does is it keeps us from healing. It keeps us from becoming whole. And I'll add to that it keeps us from modeling, if we're parents, modeling healthy behaviors and healthy way of functioning, and healthy relationships with our children.
Because codependence compromise a lot. You'll find yourself compromising your own values as we develop this lifestyle of pleasing others.
Yeah.
So we compromise a lot. We may not agree with things. We may do things we typically don't want to do. We really don't want to do them. We feel kind of coerced into it because we feel like we have to do it in order to keep this person happy.
And then we're mad at them.
Right? And then we're mad. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So
in the end, it ends up just harming us, and it doesn't bring any help. There is no help.
It harms us in the end.
And everyone around us. And everyone else around us.
So if you think about this as parents or just in any kind of relationship, if you become a better person, if you become a healed person, a healthier person, it's only going to help everyone around you, and your healthiness is going to allow them to be healthier too. Your boundaries, your healthy boundaries, are going to help them learn to set their healthy boundaries and how to relate. Your children learn how to relate to other people based on what they learn in their home. So if you're as I learn this and I'm demonstrating this to people around me, it will help them as well.
Yeah, I was going to say it doesn't just affect your children; it affects every relationship. Kathleen and I are friends, but we also work together, and so it affects our work relationship. The healthier we get, because we can kind of process through work stuff and go, okay, hold on, you're being triggered right now.
Yes, this is not reasonable.
It helps with our relationships with our spouses, our significant others. It helps in our friendships. It helps with ourselves, which really is an important relationship and needs to be acknowledged. That's part of like what you're talking about, being still and feeling your feelings. That relationship is a priority as well.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't feel guilty for doing what's best for you and taking care of yourself.
Self-reflection is critical. If you have never just sat and been alone with yourself, maybe you're one of those people that go from relationship to relationship because you just can't be alone, because you're terrified of being alone with yourself. Maybe you don't think you'll like yourself. Like, I don't want to be with myself because I don't like me. You need to make time for yourself to be alone and reflect. Meditate on yourself and how you're feeling and what's going on in your life.
And what you love and doing what feeds your own soul instead of relying on somebody else to distract. And keep and that's the keeping busy one too. And
we mentioned a book last week or before, I guess, Women Who Love Too Much. Really, that is a great book that follows, as we said, we're doing this book, Untangling Relationships by Pat Springle. Right?
Shout out. Pat.
So Pat Springle, thank you, sir. This is a great book. But anywho, the Women Who Love Too Much. That book, the chapters kind of coincide a little bit with this. Almost, it's a natural. It really is a natural progression. It kind of follows that. So there's some really good case studies and case examples that are super interesting to read. Yeah. And you may you may see yourself in a lot of them. We did.
Yes,
Not all of them. Some of them didn't relate to me. I said, no, that's really not my history. But a lot of them did, and it was very helpful. It was very insightful. So that really helped us. So
And that's the author of that is Robin Norwood.
Robin Norwood, I believe.
Is that right?
Yes.
Women Who Love Too Much. Okay.
So now we're going to challenge you.
Okay. See, I'm looking at the time. Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I am going to challenge you to really analyze where you are. This is part of this seeing yourself clearly, seeing yourself objectively. So grab a pen, some paper, grab your phone, whatever, and we want you to think about your own blinders. And on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 means that it never happens. You never do this. You. 10 means you always do this, okay? 0 is never, 10 always. You're going to rank them on a scale from 0 to 10. Rate yourself in each of the categories, okay? So the first one is filtering information, okay? If we go back and talk about what filtering information was, that's only accepting what fits with our distorted perception of reality and our lack of objectivity, okay? So where are you on that scale of filtering information?
Okay, the next one is defending the offender, and that is excusing the person who has hurt us and then blaming ourselves.
That's a big one. Where
0
are
to
you?
10, folks. Go ahead and rate yourself. That's number 2.
Yep. The third one is redefining the pain. And that was when we label our pain as purely physical to avoid actually dealing with the emotional issues that are real. So where are you on that scale of 0 to 10? When it comes to redefining your pain.
Maybe you classify yourself, or others have accused you of being a hypochondriac.
Ooh.
You got a lot of health issues. You get a lot of migraines. You get a lot of depression and anxiety, panic attacks, all of those kinds of things.
You're gonna be a 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You gonna do number 4?
Yeah. Proclaiming perfect perception. That's where we deny reality. Well, that's where denying reality and feeling the pain give ourselves a sense of control. So we deny that just because we need to feel like we're in control. Okay? 0 to 10. 0, never. 10, always.
Number 5, it's one of the ones we talked about today, keeping busy. We just fill our time with working too hard, playing too hard, vegging out too hard.
Avoidance technique.
Avoiding. 0 to 10.
Yeah. And then exchanging emotions. You don't express your real emotions, how you're really feeling. You tend to use words that are more socially acceptable, like frustrated instead of angry, tired instead of owning your depression, that kind of thing.
Number 7, the last one, is people pleasing.
Ooh, that's a big one,
Where
guys.
are you on the people pleasing scale? I'm not even gonna explain it because we all know.
You know, you're going to compromise yourself and who you are and what you want to make other people happy. Your whole life is about saving, rescuing, fixing other people, and you don't ever take time to reflect on who you are, what you want, what you like. Okay?
So in
0 to
preparing
10.
for this, I wanted to kind of see where I am now, and then I went back and looked at what my scores were when I first did this 2 years ago. And it was really interesting to me to see how much I've changed. And I really think that that's one of the things that makes us different. Like I said, we're not therapists, we're not, I don't know, life coaches. We're just regular people. Yeah, we're not doctors. Even though I say I'm a mom, which gives me an honorary degree, but that's irrelevant. We're just regular people who, and that's one of the things that makes us we're actually walking through this.
Yes.
We actually we know what it means to be codependent because we are codependent.
We are.
But we're learning how to heal and
how to walk out of it.
Yeah. And bringing as many of you along with us as we can.
Yes.
So I'm going to share where I was. So in filtering information, what I said 2 years ago is that I was an 8. Now, mind you, I didn't look at my old scores when I made my new scores. I had no idea what I said. I just analyzed where I was. So when I analyzed where I am today, instead of being an 8, I'm a 3.
Whoop, whoop.
Look at me growing.
I know, right? Look at us.
Where were you?
I was a 8 also originally, and now I said I'm a 4.
Look
About
at
a
you.
4.
See?
Growth, people, growth.
It's real.
Progress, not perfection.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for defending the offender, I said I was an 8. And I probably was not very objective. I was probably a 9.
I said 9. Mm-hmm.
And now I said 2.
Oh, okay. I said 3.
Oh,
So okay, see,
yeah.
we're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay, so for what did you say for redefining the pain?
I said 4. Because I think I was probably lacked an objectivity there. Because redefining the pain, I think I wasn't seeing clearly.
Yeah.
But I said a 4. And I said now I'm about a 2.
Okay, so I said a 2 then, I think because I wasn't seeing myself objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Like now I know I get this tension thing in my shoulders. Now I know that I get headaches, like things I didn't know before. So I probably was more like a 4 then, and now I'm probably a 2, but I said 2 years ago. Okay, so proclaiming perfect perception.
What'd you say?
I said 10 2 years ago.
Really?
Oh yeah, I always
Okay.
wanted to be perfect or perceived as perfect. Yeah.
All right.
Now I said 4.
Okay.
Would you think that's accurate?
I said,
you know me.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think we've come a long way.
Yeah,
I
for
said
sure.
5.
That your old number was 5?
My old number is 5, and now I say it's a 3.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I wasn't really clear proclaiming perfection. I think I thought I was so much more introspective than I actually.
Yeah.
That was
That's true.
I was in denial. So
That's
okay.
true.
Keeping busy. Oh Lord. I was probably a 10 originally.
I said 10 originally. Yeah.
And I'm about a 5. I'm getting better. I'm not where I want to be, but I am getting better.
I don't think I'm much better. I'm a 7.
I think I might not be a 5. I think I'm lying because
I'm lying.
because I'm
Objective,
still
huh?
okay. You know what? Let me reevaluate because I still am a workaholic, and I still do. I spend a lot of time. I'm a reader.
Yeah.
And also like computer stuff, like for your brain. Like I always say,
Yeah.
it's to stave off Alzheimer's or whatever. I spend a lot of time playing computer games, word games, and I think that's a way of avoiding. So
Okay.
yeah, okay. So maybe I would say maybe a 7.
That's what
So I'm gonna
I
say
said I'm a
7.
7. I said I was a 10. I'm a 7.
Yeah.
That's my highest number.
All right.
It was my highest number then.
Okay.
Well, I had 3 10s. But anyway, so exchanging emotions. What did you say? What did you say 2
I
years
said
ago?
6, and now I said 3. I think I'm
Okay.
really getting used to
Yeah.
kind of claiming it.
Yeah, I said 5.
Name it
before.
to tame it.
And you know what? That was probably lack of objectivity for me to only say 5 before, and now I say 3.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, people pleasing.
9.
I said 10 before.
Mm-hmm.
What are you now?
I said a 4 because I
Look at
think I
you.
really.
You
I think-
really, yeah.
I think I've come through with that. I think
Yeah,
I've made a
I
lot of
agree.
growth. I think I've made a lot of progress. So I'm
You
gonna
really have.
I'm gonna own it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take my props.
See, that's part of seeing yourself
Mhm.
objectively is to see the bad, but also see the good.
See the good.
You know, which is
Mhm.
something we don't do as codependents.
Yeah.
So I said 2 years ago I said people pleasing a 10, and now I say 5.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
look at us.
Look at us growing.
We are. Look at us grow. You guys can
Look
grow
at
too. See, everyone can.
Yay.
So yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Okay, so how did you do? So were you able to identify some blinders in your own life? Which ones did you rank the highest?
Yeah.
You know, which ones were the strongest ones for you?
What do you want to work on?
Right?
You might
What
want
do
to
you need to?
focus on
Yes.
specific ones that you are realizing are no longer serving you.
Yes.
And
No
if
longer
if
serving.
those things aren't serving you, then this is a wonderful opportunity to stop doing them and start a new pattern, because you've been doing this circle dance, this pattern of behavior all this time. But if it's no longer serving you, it's okay. You can stop it.
So think about this. We're going to challenge this as we leave. We're going to challenge you to think about what is an action step that you can take to address one of your blinders. Take the one that's the strongest for you, the highest ranking one. Maybe it's something like when you feel sad, frustrated, uncomfortable, uneasy, you'll stop to identify the true feeling and respond honestly.
Yeah.
Name the honest feeling. Use your feeling wheel and say what
Yeah.
it is. Or maybe as you identify one of these blinders as you're going through life, you just stop and you identify it and you address it and think, oh, okay, I am keeping busy when I
Yep.
need to really deal with
I'm
some stuff.
avoiding,
I'm
yeah.
really upset with my spouse right now. I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling disrespected. But I'm
Unloved.
right.
That's a big one for us. That's a big
Unvalidated,
trigger
yes.
for us, you know?
So maybe you stop and think, okay, how am I really feeling?
Mhm.
I'm slamming things around, or I'm giving the silent treatment, or I'm crying about something else that really isn't the issue. So
Yeah.
so take some steps to address it. If you're really busy with work, church, or whatever, look at your schedule. Cut out some activities and deliberately make time to sit quietly with yourself. Reflect on your emotions. All right. Reflect on your lack of objectivity or your lack of emotion, which points to suppressed emotions such as anger or pain. If you say you never get angry, you codependent.
Yes,
You know,
you might be codependent.
and we never want to say we're hurt because we weren't allowed to just express hurt when we were a child.
And I would have seen it as weakness.
He's got to
Yep. Did it?
Yeah.
You
Okay,
finished
I got
it.
you. Okay, so we weren't allowed to have those kinds of emotions as a kid. So allow yourself to feel your feelings. It's really important that we do take time to allow ourselves to feel and try to understand what the true underlying emotion is, where they came from. Name them, feel them, own them. Really, we say again, you have to name them to tame them. So, and it may be kind of scary because this may be the first time you're actually really identifying these things. Maybe your spouse tends to make sarcastic remarks or cuts you down or criticizes you, and you always laugh it off or make a joke out of it and say, well, it doesn't really bother me, that's just him. But it really does hurt you, and you've never really owned that or claimed that and said, you know, this is really hurtful today. So take some time to reflect on how you really feel when you're going through some of those things, okay? So we're just going to summarize this. Codependence, we use blinders to avoid pain, but in the process, we avoid healing. Okay? Instead of honestly feeling the hurt of betrayal and experiencing the anger of being abused or neglected, the codependent usually defends the offender. Codependents use activities to keep ourselves too busy to think or feel. Okay? Thank you. So yeah. So that's what we've done this week, is talk about these blinders. We really want you to take some time to reflect on this. Next week, we're going to do a review of codependency. So if you still aren't sure, if you think I'm not really codependent, but you're still with us.
And if you want to go into a little bit more depth.
Yeah, we're going to go into a little more depth.
A little bit deeper understanding. We're going to talk about what it looks like in your day-to-day life.
The signs of codependency, and then, you know, what we need to do to kind of work through some of that. So you guys, thanks so much for coming with us. We're just like Kim said, we're just two regular Joes that have realized that we are codependent. We've identified this in our life and realized it no longer works for us.
Right.
We're not happy with this. We want to change. We want to grow. We want to heal. And so we're walking through this journey, and we just want to share this with others so that you know that you can do this. You don't have to be a counselor or whatever.
No,
you can do this. So
sometimes it's nice to have somebody who really understands what you're going through versus somebody's kind of shooting on you. You should do this and you should do that.
Let me tell you how you do this. So
we're saying here I
we
am
are.
all my flaws. And here are the ways I've hurt myself and the people I love.
Right.
And here's how I'm trying to make it better.
And we really do try to be as transparent and raw and open as we can be with our stuff. Like, I feel like we know that we have amends to make. I have some amends to make with people in my life that I need to own, the things that I've done that have damaged them and hurt them, and ask for forgiveness for that and kind of work through that. Which in the beginning, when we talked about it, it was so scary.
Terrifying.
I thought, I just can't. You'd be surprised how when you go through this healing process, how much easier it gets to acknowledge your mistakes, to own your stuff, and to actually voice that to someone else, someone that you may have hurt, and ask for their forgiveness. It is freeing.
It is. So I have a question for you. I know you are very soon going to have some conversations, some uncomfortable conversations that you've really been wanting to have for a long time. You've been wanting to apologize and to make amends and to say, I see you and I see this. So after you do those and have those uncomfortable conversations, will you share that with us?
I will, to the extent I can still protect someone's privacy.
Of course.
Yes, absolutely. I will, because Kim and I, at this point, haven't actually published these like on our Facebook account, so that people that we actually know are going to see and hear this, our family and friends.
Sure.
So we're going to do that soon, very soon.
So when it gets to you, we will have worked through all of this.
Yes.
But we need to make sure that we do it in a healthy way.
Right.
And
we
that
respect others.
Are respectful and loving.
But also that we speak our truth, even if it may hurt someone else or make them angry or upset because they haven't walked through their healing journey yet. I want to be respectful of that, but at the same time, as part of my healing, I've got to be honest about my truth. And
that's an uncomfortable conversation.
Very
so that's
much
what we're all about here, is walking you through how to have these uncomfortable conversations and what they look like in real life.
And keep in mind that in dysfunctional families, there's a lot of secrecy.
Yes.
You don't air the family's dirty laundry.
Yes.
You don't talk about things. It's very uncomfortable. You don't talk about your emotions. You don't talk about what's going on in your family. You either ignore it, you deny it, you suppress it. So part of this healing is to bring this stuff out, and that makes people that are not in that place very uncomfortable that we're bringing this stuff to light, but it can be freeing for everybody. I'm hoping that it'll bring healing for all of us. So, but I'm not responsible for anybody else. I'm only responsible for me and my stuff. So
and one of the things Brene Brown teaches, if you're a fan of Brene, she does a lot of research on shame and how it affects us. And one of the things she says that shame cannot live in the light. So when you bring these things to light, shame loses its power.
Exactly.
So I think that's a lot. I think that's going to be a lot of what we both experience when we have some of these uncomfortable conversations with the people that we love.
Exactly. Well, thanks again for joining us. Please do subscribe and like us. Click those buttons and stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you. Bye.